reaching more people.
What does that mean?
Is that a quality in and of itself? I mean, because scale would tell us, in my perverse version of it that everyone disagrees with, that it's a good end in itself. Like Oprah's good because she reaches more people. So reaching more people in itself is one that you guys are all arguing with as an end. So what's the real end? What happens when you reach more people? You're not.
I'm not against it.
I'm not against it. I'm not arguing. I would argue. I'm not arguing, but I would suggest that it's part of a blend of strategies that helps us build movements that build power. And what we're all interested in is a democratic people's movement. We're not interested, or I'm not interested in like because a couple of really high-profile individuals who represent nobody and who, who have the prominence and the power and the resources to say whatever they think, happen to say things we like. Mm-hmm. That's somehow I don't confuse that mm-hmm. with being a part of a social movement, because I'm not engaged with them, and I'm not trying to build with them, and I'm not talking about them individually. Obviously, I don't expect George Clooney to show up to a direct action and stop the War Spokes Council to find out what the messaging is, so the next time he's getting an award, he can say the right thing. I'm suggesting that people be tapped into, and that we're building a democratic people's movement together. And I think the tendency in this society is to assume that prominence and a microphone and greater reach gives you the authority mm-hmm. and without any accountability to say whatever you think, and that we're supposed to be okay with it if they say things we like, but we're supposed, I'm happy for George Clooney to go to a demo and speak against the war, and I'm happy for George Clooney to take the anti-war message to the Oscars, but I don't presume that just because he reaches more people that's better, because if he's not connected to, if it's not part of the same movement that's, on the ground stopping kids from signing up because they think they're going to get money for college, when the reality is they're going to get a bullet in the back of the head, then he's not fighting for the, we're not building the same movement. We're not trying to, So, and Antonia is, like, quite frank, we know, she said it. She picked campaigns that people are already working on. She's, so there is a strategy here that's engaging with other community-based groups and other organizers and other, in the broader movement, and that's good. The bigger the microphone, the better for Antonia.
You're here.
And when...
I'll stop now. I'm sorry. I just came out of a board meeting.
It's all right.
Where I was
so when...
now I'm like...
Is there any point where that bigger microphone would become problematic? Like that something in the size of the microphone would start to become counterproductive? Or is really the bigger the microphone, the fucking better? It could just be as big as the whole world,
No, it is.
I mean, I concur with my colleague over there. No, I think it's great. I mean, I don't see it as that different than, I often sit in meetings with community groups and they decide, okay, we want a puppet of this, and then, often me and one or two other people will go and spend huge amounts of time creating a puppet that's going to be highly visible, and we sometimes get credit for making the puppet. And I see the book as basically the same thing. I mean, these are all, a lot of the politics and the campaigns are it's an extension of the movement, and you just, make yourself kind of miserable for, not miserable, but you work your ass off for most of the year in order to, create this highly developed tool for the movement. So I think the danger is this society has a way of reducing movements and rebellion into leaders that can be contained and pressured into saying, sign this petition instead of join the rebellion when they're on the Today Show. There's a whole bunch of pressures that will come to bear to be more reasonable and often reaching the mainstream, which often is code for, middle-class white people who watch television.
That's right.
There's all these pressures to suddenly you should really tone down the message, don't sound radical. I was raised with some of that stuff coming into single-issue movements. It's stick with your issue, don't get too extreme. You can sort of connect things, but, you'll lose your basis. But people are fucking hungry for an explanation of what's going on in the world, and then it comes out of a movement that has a very clear radical systemic critique. So I think if you're on the Today Show, you should actually amp up the militants without the rhetoric.